Welcome back to 812. Today we are going to delve into the concept analysis process a little more detail. This is really related to Module 1, which is really the review of literature component for the concept analysis. But in order to really work on that in more depth, you will really want to have a greater understanding of the concept analysis process. So you have a number of resources. We will highlight some things with this, and you want to be sure and pay special attention to the Walker and Avant article or the chapter. It's chapter 10 that is posted in Module 1 so that you can understand what they're talking about. Walker and Avant are one of the experts in concept analysis. Concept analysis really can be found in linguistics, business, math, and particularly nursing, but all of them intend to help clarify a concept by whatever process they have developed. We'll be using components of those that mainly come from Walker and Avant and Rogers. But first of all, what is a concept? Well, it's really an image or an idea in something that we can generally measure, the phenomena. It needs to have a clear definition, and it needs to be talked about within the context or the lens that you are approaching it from. Many concepts can have different applications in different settings or contexts, and so you'll want to be clear on both what the purpose of your concept analysis is as well as what the context is. So when you are looking in the literature for the topic, you might want to specify what the context is, or you might find that there will be, as the facilitation article that's an example of a concept analysis is in your resources. It looked at both the context of mental health as well as the context of education. For your concept analysis for this course, you will want to limit it to the context that you identify. You won't want to explore all contexts that the concept might apply to. Then what is analysis? Well, it's looking at the pieces or the parts that make up a whole. It's really looking at their relationships and how they relate to each other as well as to the whole world. And it's to help promote understanding. So after reading a lot about concept analyses, my definition is that it's really examining the characteristics, relationships, and function of an idea or a phenomenon. I happen to be working on some research right now regarding the use of a concept analysis as a teaching methodology. The research I did was with students in this class or in 855 Teaching and Learning Concepts class a few years ago, and the findings were that the concept analysis process increased understanding of the concept. It increased critical thinking slightly, but it also increased use of the concept analysis process as well as the application of the concept and the use of diagrams or visualizations to help clarify concepts. And all of those had significant differences pre and post doing a concept analysis. So that from an educational standpoint, although it's not something that everybody's familiar with prior to coming into this course, the concept analysis process has been found to be an effective teaching methodology. So as we've articulated, the purpose is to make sure that we have a clear and concise understanding of a phenomenon, and that we have been through the sources that really discuss these in depth, but also that we can synthesize and articulate that information in a clear and concise manner. Now, as we've mentioned, there are a variety of processes that are used for concept analysis. This list is from a compilation of Walker and Avant and Rogers, who are both primarily related to nursing and the use of a concept analysis. But for the purpose of this class, we're going to have you identify what the concept is. And remember, this has to be an educational concept. You will want to review the literature, and you'll do a limited literature review just in the interest of time. But for your dissertation, you will explore the literature and the research in depth. And then you will want to talk about what the purpose or aim of your concept analysis is, and then the context or the lens by which you are doing the analysis. You will first work on probably the major definitions that have been found in the literature, and ideally you might be creating your own. I find that when we dig deep into the literature, lots of times we find some components of a good definition, but lots of times it's not sufficient or extensive enough. So it's probable that many of you will create your own definition based upon those that you have found, and compiling that can be a very enlightening thing to use in future work that you do. You will also determine what the critical attributes or characteristics are that meet that definition, what the antecedents that precede and the consequences that follow, or the results that follow from the concept. Now, Walker and Avant also talk about case exemplars. They talk about a model case or a borderline case or a non-exemplar that doesn't meet the definition or the attributes. We are not going to use that, or the empirical reference. Those the ways you measure, some of the tools that might be used to measure these. Neither of those are we going to include in the concept analysis process for 812 due to the short amount of time that we have and the fact that this is a 1 credit hour course. But you will develop a visual representation regarding the findings that you have. So you're going to walk through that process, and primarily for the Module 1, you're going to be continuing to develop that literature review. Now, to help work on finding the definitions for your concept, you'll want to explore up to 8 or more, but for this course, ideally you would find 3 to 8 definitions that really fit what your intent is, to make sure that the context is also included, that you aren't looking at those from other disciplines that the context might be different. Identifying the attributes or those key characteristics that differentiate this concept from other phenomenon. The defining characteristics should be congruent with the definition. And we've talked about last video about the definition might include categories of attributes, and then the actual attributes themselves, if there are numerous ones, would be included just in the attribute category itself. And as we mentioned, you will want to select a definition that really includes all the attributes or the components of a quality definition that meets your standards, or synthesize the information from numerous articles and create your own. So, moving from the definition on your review of literature matrix or format that you've selected, you will then want to also find the attributes that define this concept, that are critical to differentiate this concept from other concepts, and include those on your review of literature matrix. Similarly, those events or incidences that cause the concept, or that are necessary for the concept to exist, or that precede the concept, need to be identified, and then the results or the outcomes that flow from the concept as a result of the concept need to also be identified. Now, example of a representation, a visual representation can be a concept map or a diagram. It doesn't have to be in that format, but this is something to consider when you are developing your visual representation. Lots of times the concept definition can be in the center if it's not a long definition, or maybe a part of the definition that makes it clear of what the concept is. It's not essential that it be there, but lots of times that can help people understand what your concept is really about. Then above that are the attributes. They don't have to be above. They can be in any place. But those are the characteristics that comprise the concept. Then to the left on this diagram are the antecedents, those things that precede or occur or are necessary prior to the concept existing. And then on the right are the consequences. And then in this diagram you will also see, but aren't required for your work, on the upper right are related concepts. Those things that are maybe similar or used many times in conjunction with the concept that you're talking about, but aren't the same as your concept. And then in the lower left, or under the concept definition, are subconcepts. And lots of times a major concept will have many component parts, and those can be considered subconcepts. So this can help visually articulate your information. And in some instances, I've seen students use this as one of the main slides they use to present their materials or their work when they present to the class, that they really had these parts so clearly articulated that they can just talk from each this one slide. Here's an example of a clinical concept analysis diagram that I developed a number of years ago. And in the center is the concept of pain with the definition. Above it are the attributes that we identify. To the left were the antecedents, those things that exist prior to the concept's existence. And then the consequences were to the right. And then in this diagram, you can see that there were some related concepts of comfort and discomfort and pain management. And then under the main concept were the concepts of the types of pain, intensity of pain, and characteristics of pain. All important parts of pain, but are not quite specific to the pain itself, the major concept, but are considered subconcepts. So this is just an example of what a visual diagram possibly might look at. You can have a variety of things. Some people use handouts, some use slides, prezis, all kinds of things have been used in that instance. So you will want to continue on with your developing the review of literature matrix. Remember that you're going to be analyzing and critiquing the literature, that you want to primarily be in the realm of peer-reviewed research or articles or scholarly websites, not Wikipedia or those kinds of things. So I wish you well as you move forward with your review of literature for the concept that you have selected. Let me know if you need help with anything. I am more than willing to work with you on clarifying the course or the content of what you're actually exploring. Thanks.